founder of Deep Learning AI, said something huge, that on some of his teams, the ratio of PMs to engineers is as high as 2 to 1. Why is that? AI create real value. The problem, AI efforts often end up being soiled experiments rather than integrated into your core workflow. Without alignment, you will never see the real impact. And that's where product school comes in. We don't do theory, we focus on practical, hands-on learning that gets your team deploying AI effectively. We start with the basics, understanding which problems AI can solve, and then we move fast. Rapid prototyping, quick feedback loops, and experimentation are at the heart of what we teach. To help you navigate the AI transformation journey, we've created a comprehensive guide designed to empower your product teams to build strategic AI capabilities. Based on insights from product leaders, this guide takes you through the challenges of AI adoption, presents actionable frameworks, and provides real-world use cases, all aimed at integrating AI into your team's daily workflows and achieving lasting results. So go ahead, scan the QR code, Simon says, and you will have the ability to download. Just by being here at PRODUCTCON AI, it means you're on your way to becoming AI first. With that in mind, friends, let's dive in. Before we dive in, here are a few quick tips to help you get the most out of RingCentral, which of course is our online conference platform. Now, on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the chat bar. This is your space to connect with fellow attendees in real time. You can share your thoughts, your insights, and key takeaways as the talks are unfolding. Please note, hold on a second, this chat, it is for conversation around the content only. I realize I'm doing a square right now, sorry about that. But if you'd like to introduce yourself or drop your LinkedIn profile, we have a breakout space just for that. All right, that is designed specifically for networking. You can also download speaker slides during each session. Look for the download button beneath the speaker on the main stage. Can't catch everything live? No worries, no problem. Slides and session recordings will be available immediately after the event for you to revisit anytime. I'll go ahead and walk you through the rest of the RingCentral during our first break, but for now, I'm excited to kick things off and introduce our first speaker. Ryan Daly Gallardo is SVP of Consumer at Dow Jones, publisher of some of the world's most renowned newspapers, such as the Wall Street Journal. Today, Ryan is going to teach us how to build high-quality AI features. Ryan, take it away.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for being here today. My name is Ryan Daly, and I am the SVP of Consumer Product at Dow Jones. Today, I want to talk to you about something that's been gaining momentum in the publishing world, AI-generated summaries. So some people see this as disruptive, others explore how this technology might help us. Needs are more complex, really, than ever. So instead of resisting it or rushing headfirst, we did something simple. We leaned in with curiosity and we asked, what happens when we explore this shift with care? And what we found was not everywhere. They're no longer the next thing. They're no longer a shiny object. They're here now and to stay. Amazon summarizes reviews. Google uses them in featured snippets. ChatGPT can give you one in less than a second on any topic. Summaries, they show up in your inbox, your app notifications, even your smart speakers. So this isn't something audiences are waiting for. It's something they really have come to expect. And for good reason. Today's readers are balancing more complexity and access to information than ever. So really, when thinking through this wasn't just a product decision, it was a strategic one. We could ignore summarization entirely, and if we did that, we would risk falling behind entirely, offering users an experience that no longer met their expectations. But if we move too quickly and without thought and without care, we risk flattening what makes our journalism unique. Of course, when we first started to explore this idea, we had our own concerns. Myself metrics have focused on engagement. So things like time on page or total time spent with our products or articles per session or scroll depth. And it's natural to worry if we offer something shorter, will readers stop going deeper? But instead of seeing that as a blocker, we really treated it as a starting point. It helped us shape a smarter approach, one rooted in curiosity, not necessarily caution. So to test, to learn, to build thoughtfully, and to really explore how summarization could support our mission without compromising it. And that's the path that led us to some surprising and inspiring results. So we approach this again, not to prove a point, but really to get real answers. And our test question was very simple. What do AI powered summaries do to user engagement? We weren't trying to confirm our hopes and dreams. We were open to really whatever the data showed us. And that's the value inherent in testing. It transforms some of those assumptions you might have into actual insights. It helps us make progress incrementally grounded in reality. We also knew that how we introduced summaries mattered just as much as whether we did. So we didn't just flip a switch. We made sure that we were building the right safeguards in place. So first and foremost, our newsroom and data science team partnered extremely closely together and through multiple iterations before landing on a prompt that matched our standards. The summaries themselves, the format, were presented in a bullet format, clear, structured, and helpful for scanning. And probably most importantly, every single summary was reviewed by a human editor before going live. So editors could rewrite, refine, or remove them entirely. And as you see on the screen, this functionality was actually integrated directly into our content management system, which is what you see. This helped us ensure that adoption was easy, and it was contextually paired with the original content. This keeps quality high and made sure the feature reflected our standards, not just a machine output. And that maintains trust, I think, both across all of our teams, but really ultimately trust with our readers. We then launched a test. So it was a clean A/B test. Half of users saw summaries, which you see on the right, and half did not. We tracked traditional engagement metrics being time on page and articles per session. And our goal here wasn't necessarily to find dramatic lifts and a huge success story. It was really to observe. Are summaries working the way we hoped? Are they hurting anything? So what did we see? There was no those who didn't. So the kind of fear that some, including myself, had didn't necessarily appear. And with this in mind, we saw a path forward, a reader that we could potentially measure in as additional form of engagement. But of course, those type of traditional engagement metrics only tell part of the story because not all value can be measured by time spent. So we kept going. We talked to readers to better understand the value AI summaries could bring. We talked to readers, both subscribers and non-subscribers, to understand the value that these bring and what role these summaries really play. And what we heard is that many readers found that the AI-powered summaries were additive to the experience. So first and foremost, summaries were acting as a guide for some stories. Think about the grounding overview or the table of contents of a book. especially on some of our dense or complex story. Think, as a user, help me get oriented so that I'm best able to consume and retain the content. The second is that they helped users gauge interest. So decide what to read and what to skip, empowering users with more information in how best to spend their time. So think, as a user, help me decide whether this is the story for me up front so that I don't get 2 paragraphs in and decide it's complex information as possible in the same amount of time so that I'm smarter. This was an interesting distinction with our users who are busy professionals. They didn't necessarily want to spend less time with us or as a time saver, but they wanted to consume more. It's definitely an important nuance and one that we've heard echoed in previous research around content density. Our readers, of course, are people. They're busy professionals, they're investors, they're decision makers, people with high expectations and limited time. So behind every click or scroll is one of them with needs, goals, and habits. And here's some of what they told us specifically about these summaries. This is a very positive feature using AI to improve the reader's experience. It is always welcome, but I still expect the feature to keep the substance and the quality of the information. It offers a little extra information to decide whether to read the article in full. This would likely influence my make or break decision on whether to read. Obviously, seeing 1 or 2 really bad summaries would shift my opinion. I think it would help me spend less time on articles I don't have a ton of interest in. So as you can see, these responses weren't passive approval, they were active validation. These users weren't asking for less journalism, they were asking for smarter access to it. So summaries didn't erode trust, they actually earned it by respecting our readers' time and judgment. And once we saw that clearly, it really changed how we thought about the role these tools could play, not just in engagement, but really in a long-term value. Summaries, they offer more than just convenience. They help readers cover more ground. They surface value faster, and they make dense or developing stories easier to approach. And even if a given feature is used by a portion of the audience and not everyone, for those who use it, the value is so high. Tools that serve different needs for different users or the same user on different days and at different times. One size does not fit all anymore. Some users want clarity, others want depth, sometimes the same user at different points throughout their day, and we can serve both. So we're refining how summaries appear. We're experimenting with the placement. We are thinking through personalization and adding new formats. And we're extending them into places where clarity and context can help the user. All, of course, while applying the same principles that we've in editorial oversight and real-world testing to these and also other AI-assisted features. On this screen, you can see one of the next tests that is live as we speak. This is a small design refinement for users to close and or open the summary itself on the article page. So we'll be testing the default state along with these 2 options, the left a default open and the right a default close. So I'll leave you with this. Where are you holding back? Not because the idea, it's that progress doesn't come from playing it safe. It comes from asking bold questions.
And PRODUCTCON, they're also the creators of the Product Podcast. Hosted by Carlos Gonzalez de Villambrosia, Product School's founder and CEO, the Product Podcast has been a go-to product resource for over a decade. Each episode features insightful conversations with CPOs and VPs at top tech companies, covering everything from breaking into product management and setting meaningful career goals to leading cross-functional teams and knowing when it's time to pivot. With over 8 million downloads, it's clear that product professionals around the world trust this podcast for inspiration and for practical advice. And today, we're doing something special. Oh yeah, you'll get not one, but 2 live episodes of the Product Podcast. But before we dive in, Carlos is here to share a few words about Product School and how their programs can help elevate your entire product team.
We are celebrating our 11th anniversary since we started Product School. I remember very well that product management wasn't cool at all back in the day. Now it's probably too cool. And it's incredible to see that our community has grown to over 2 million product professionals from all over the world. I'm very proud of being able to organize this type of conferences. We do it 4 times a year, PRODUCTCONAI, as well as in San Francisco, London, and New York. Love hosting the product podcast. In fact, I hope you enjoy the session we're going to have with the Chief Product Officer from Grammarly. But the core of it, the core of Product School, our something that I'm very, very passionate about, and the way we approach it is quite unique compared to, I would say, how traditional training has been done. I'm a strong believer in having practitioners. Best instructors are practitioners, are not teachers. So all of the instructors who teach at Product School are real-world product leaders that are actively working at some of the best companies in the world. Google, Netflix, Uber, you name it. The second point is the level of customization. There's no silver bullet in product management. Of course, there's a set of best practices, and that's a good reference point, but ultimately the real gains happen when we're able to customize those best practices to what companies are actually doing and what they need. So taking that one-to-one approach for every single engagement is something that I want to continue doing. I know it's hard to scale, but it's absolutely necessary in order to drive better outcomes. And the other part is the live component. I'm just not a believer in learning through just videos. I believe videos are a good supplement, but ultimately having the access to live interaction in small cohorts so those practitioners can be there with you, can act as your coach, is something that we've proven that delivers better results. So this is something that I've been doing for a very long time. A lot of healthcare organizations such as Walgreens, Kaiser Permanente. We work in telecom sector with companies such as British Telecom or Cox Communications, because ultimately every company is a software company and they have digital products. So I want you to think about us as your thought partner, as your coach, to elevate the quality of your product teams. And if this is something that you are interested in, feel free to connect with us or even with me directly on LinkedIn. With that said, hope you enjoy the Product Podcast episode.
Thank you for that, Carlos. Now, friends, it's time for our first episode of the Product Podcast with a very special guest, CPO at Grammarly, Noam Levinsky. Noam and Carlos are going to discuss building a high-performance product team of humans and agents. Carlos, Noam, the floor is yours.
Welcome to the Product Podcast, Noam.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's hard to get to here, and I'm hoping that, this is not the first time either, because you were a speaker at our conference, ProductCon San Francisco last year. That was awesome to have you. There was 1,000 people in the room. This time it's just you and me, but just imagine there will be many more thousands listening us.
Yeah, that was super fun. Thank you for having me. It's a great conference.
So Grammarly, it's been all over the news recently. I obviously know Coda very well. We had Shishir, we had him on the podcast when he was the CEO there, and then after Grammarly acquired Coda, Shishir became the CEO of the entire entity, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is not actually this is now the second time that Shishir didn't start out as my manager in a job, but eventually became my manager at a job. So I'm accustomed to this. When I joined YouTube, we worked as peers, and eventually he became the kind of head of all product and design, and we got to work together in this same way. So I'm excited to do this again.
So the combined entity data that I was looking at, it seems like it's profitable with over $700 million in revenue and about 40 million daily active users.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So that's a lot, right? And I know that you guys shared an investor between Coda and Grammarly, but beyond that, what was the product rationale to bring together those two companies?
Oh yeah, it's a great question. It's pretty ironic because independently we had written strategy artifacts and plans for the future that actually used very much of the same words. At Grammarly, we saw our future as building like an AI native. Was the first thing that we really got strong at. But writing is obviously something that you do everywhere, and we saw that an opportunity to expand from kind of the best writing agent on the market to a productivity suite that would help you bring forth AI to help you in many of the things that you do at work, not just writing, but planning, scheduling, coordination, creating all sorts of documents and artifacts. And so we saw ourselves as an AI native productivity suite. That was our future, and we knew that we needed a number of surfaces to bring that vision to life. Meanwhile, Coda saw themselves in very much the same way. They started from, rather than kind of more from the frame of reference of an agent, started more as an application, and they viewed like the Coda application to be an all-in-one workspace that integrates with all of your data and would ultimately help you with all of the things that you use a typical productivity suite for. So documents, spreadsheets, databases, forms, et cetera. So really, the two companies had very, very aligned kind of North Star. And so, as we've come together, we basically, our vision is to build, an AI native productivity.
I think this is your opportunity to shame me back because I've been using Grammarly for a long time, mostly the keyboard on my iPhone.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've been also been using Coda separately, but I still haven't seen the integration between those products. I don't know if you guys are also offering any other products. Like, how does that vision come to life, practically speaking?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I'm not shaming you. We just haven't brought too much of that to market just yet. We're working on sort of like account integrations. We're trying to allow these products to. We're doing three big things. So the first way that this is going to come together is we're going to take all of that infrastructure that we've built to deliver the OG agent, Grammarly, into all of these various applications that you work with. We're going to turn that into an agent platform, not only for our agent, but also for our customers' agents, also for third-party developers. And we're going to basically use all the Grammarly infrastructure to connect all of these front ends. So basically all these agents on this platform can work in all of your applications just the same way Grammarly does. So I'm sure you experience Grammarly in Gmail or in Google Docs or various other applications. We underline words, we give you suggestions, etc. Imagine if many more agents could work that way and show up exactly where you work in your workflow and give you assistance. We're then going to take Coda Brain and basically make it the knowledge engine for that agent platform. So now the agents on that platform will be able to work in all of the applications you work in, the way that Grammarly does, but they will also have access to the knowledge they need to get work done. So right now, Grammarly is really good at giving you, suggestions on how you might correct your words and communicate more effectively. But imagine if you were in Gmail and Grammarly could actually bring in data from Salesforce to actually, improve the customer outreach email that you're creating, or bring you inline suggestions about like latest pricing or whatever else. And imagine if Grammarly was not the only agent on that platform that can do that. So that's the first thing we're doing, is we're combining those assets and creating that agent platform. The next thing that you'll see us do is we'll start to build many more agents, both that come from us, also from third-party developers. There's a number of people that are developing agents. Think about kind of the typical AI assistant tools that are out there today, meeting nodes, like those sorts of things that would love to work the way that Grammarly does inside of all of these applications, right? Why should Granola only write your notes to like one place? What if Granola could write your notes to whatever surface like you used to take the notes and make those meetings useful to you? These are the sorts of things that other agent developers will be able to do when they build on our platform. So new agent platform, a whole suite of new agents. And then the third thing that we're doing is that we're evolving Coda Docs into that surface that essentially you work with all the agents to produce the artifacts that part of the canvas. It understood Coda and knew how to manipulate it. It had access to all the agents that were on that platform, and you can work with those agents to produce the artifacts you need to get work done. And so you'll see us starting later this year replace Grammarly's editor, which is actually our highest upgrading surface, with a Coda Doc that has a bunch of writing specific agents aimed at helping students and professionals like write more effective documents.
These early days of SaaS, when new SaaS companies would put themselves in the middle and say, we are replacing the spreadsheet, and now every other application is connected to us, but they will always put themselves in the middle.
Yeah.
And now in this new AI world, the next frontier is to really be that center in the application layer and develop those integrations with.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's interesting. I agree with you that time in SaaS where like everyone kind of put themselves at the center. I think that one kind of difference with our strategy is that it's less that we want to put ourselves in the center, but we want these things to work wherever you work with whatever like platform or set of data that you have that you need to kind of get work done. And so the knowledge layer that you're describing, that for us as a product internally that's called Brain, we're essentially like connecting. We're using all of Coda's Coda packs and their ability to connect to these third-party providers. We're actually synchronizing a lot of the data, creating an index, and then providing access to that index through that agent platform. So you'll be able to run RAG over it. You'll be able to kind of query and chat with the data, but also the agents that run on that platform will be able to access that data. So we're essentially kind of trying to build it's almost like a common data API across all of your SaaS applications. And because Coda already integrates with over 800 applications, and it's actually very easy to write your own integration, we're turning those kind of packs into agents that work on that platform, but we'll be synchronizing the data in and then making available to all those agents and those users. And of course, it's all permission aware, so you only have access to the things that you actually have access to, and so on.
Yeah, I want to double down on this integration topic because I think that's where part of where the money is at. And we've seen situations where you still want to develop a native integration between two products,
but there are also other layers you can rely on, such as Zapier, Neon, and others. Yeah. So what's your rationale behind saying, okay, these are the integrations we need to maintain and invest in versus allowing other developers to just build on top of your API and not have to worry about being the one owning that relationship?
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think what we learned from Coda is actually Coda has a very healthy like pack developer community, and actually there's like over 7,000 packs, but many of those packs are things that are just internal integrations. Every decent sized enterprise has like all of these internal applications that don't even, there's not a public internet version of those things to even integrate with, right? And so I think that what we will likely do is similar to what Coda did, which is where are like for the use cases of our products, like where is there the most pull and where is there the most need to make sure that there are really high quality, high availability, first party integrations. We will build and maintain those ourselves. If the developer of that application wants to take on that integration, build their own, maintain it themselves, we'd be very happy for them to do that. But I bet we would still maintain our version just to make sure that if our customer wanted to integrate Jira, they had a high quality experience regardless of what Atlassian's priority was for building an integration on our platform. But I think still the vast majority of the integrations that are going to be available on this platform are going to be built by our customers and developers, very much so. And we would like to, similar to how Coda did, we would like to create an ecosystem and create an incentive for them to do so that it's easier to developing an agent on our platform you should get something out of that, right? It should be a way to distribute your application, or it should be a way to make your application more sticky. Because if we can make your data available in many more places, create a bit of a marketplace dynamic.
Yeah, and that's how I define the evolution from platform to ecosystem, right? Like in a platform, I understand you're still owning most of the relationship between the integrations that you're making, while in an ecosystem, you're allowing basically the entire world out there to build on top of your platform. And you can even evolve that into an economy where the people who are developing on top of your platform, they can also generate their own business.
Exactly. And I mean, our intention is very much an ecosystem, but I think we need to make sure that we've got our customers covered in the event that like an ecosystem developer isn't doing, the job that they need. So you could imagine in our ecosystem that there'll be, for instance, let's say Atlassian got really excited about this and wanted to build their own Jira agents. That's amazing. Then we would just make it clear that's like, this is the Jira agent by Atlassian, and this is the Jira agent by, Grammarly or whatever our name becomes.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about org design. I think you have a very interesting background as a founder, got acquired by Google, that made you work there for many years. Now as a CPO, or you were the CPO of Zamtac, now you're CPO of Grammarly. The average tenure for CPOs, I think, is like 2 years, and you are way past that.
I'm just a little bit overpast that at Grammarly, so we'll see. We'll see what happens by the end of the year.
We'll see what happens. But in general, like for someone who's been in those hot seats, in different organizations, I'm curious to know your perspective on how you manage and how do you think about your relationship with your CEO. And then we can talk about your relationship with your org.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe on the CEO one, I'll maybe just talk about more broadly as like founders. I think there's there's founder fit. I think is a really important and challenging thing. I think a lot of the reason, like the 2-year average that you're mentioning for CPOs, I think a lot of the time the reason that doesn't work out is it's sort of like, CPO founder fit, right? And kind of figuring that out. And one of the things that I feel really strongly about that, which I've noticed is like not necessarily always shared in amongst my peers, is that I really think that for the first little while, maybe 6 months, 12 months, you should really be trying to run the founder's playbook when it comes to product strategy, your instinct about kind of like what to build for the customer, for the market. It's a speech that I give to every PM joining a new team, right? You go through stages of a PM on a team and building your credibility. Like, first you start as the note taker, quite literally and also like figuratively. You're just like, you're trying to improve the team's process, how they work, make them more efficient, make them scale. After you do a good job of that, then you kind of move to the team evangelist. Like, your job is to make sure everyone to the side of you, everyone above you knows exactly what your team is doing, what your goal setting strategy. Most PMs, they want to just like jump to that like third stage. That's why they want to do PM work. And the same is true, I think, for like, PMs in position of leadership. It's like, oh, I've done this for 20 years. I'm gonna join this new company, and I'm gonna figure out the strategy and set it all up and drive growth and so on and so forth. And meanwhile, you have this like founder or founders that are like, I've been building this for 15 years. I know this problem like inside and out. I know this customer like really, really well. And I think even in my role, you got to go through that. Cool. I'm going to be your note taker for a little while, both figuratively and literally, right? At a different scale and like a different, what it means to be a note taker in that scale is a little bit different. But I think that's a really important part of like essentially building credibility and finding that founder fit first, and then kind of learning how to operate with that founder or CEO. And that's served me well because for a lot of these businesses, like, you think you understand the problem, you think you understand the customer, but it's often like much deeper and just takes more time, I think, to build really good instinct and intuition. And I think it's okay to kind of run and help operationalize the playbook of the people that have been building that intuition for a lot longer while you learn and while you expand from there.
As a founder myself, I resonate with that statement because especially product, like the CPO role, is just so hard to delegate, right? Like, and the last thing I would want to do is to at first. And I think that approach can help really show the value of why you're here and not just as a new strategy on is, okay, how do you really ensure that you are not an expensive note taker and you can really earn the respect of that founder on the areas where you see a different thing?
Yeah, that's a say in that note-taking phase, you should be creating like incredible leverage for the founder, right? Even if you're not like setting and creating strategy, it should feel like they can have, conversations with you here and there, not without a like huge amount of time, but then that turns into people rowing and executing. To a large group of people so that they actually internalize them and understand them, and the hundreds of decisions that they're making every month are generally aligned in the right direction without you micromanaging every possible decision, I think is also a skill and an art. And if you're not providing that sort of leverage to a founder that has really strong product instinct and really strong strategic instinct, then you're just an expensive note taker. And I think like as you do that, as you help kind of crystallize and refine the story, and also spend a lot of time with customers, obviously, your understanding of the problem and the strategy and what needs to be solved gets much better. And then at that point, you could start, you start the back and forth of like, oh, well, that maybe it's that thing, but isn't this a higher priority and should be working on this? And if you think about the problem this way, then we would lead us to a very different direction. And, I think you have to go through those stages. I've just seen it like time and time again, right? Like company gets to a certain size, founder no longer has like the time and bandwidth to be like in like deep in every detail as they want to be. Board is like, oh, it's time to, you're growing up, time to like hire a professional, a CPO or whatever. A lot of those professionals that you hire aren't builders, they're operators. And then they're like, they're very good at running the trains and figuring out how to execute, but they lack intuition or they lack instinct. And if you ask them, what should we build? And they're like, I don't know. Right. And then that's like, oil and water with like a very kind of product driven founder, is like, they have built the business on like instinct and intuition and customer understanding and so many reps and the problem. You have to keep that in mind and kind of work together as builders, like kind of over time.
Well, now I'm going to talk about that third phase you described when you become truly a strategist, and I want to connect it to how you design your own org, because at some point you really own that strategy for your product, especially in a company such as Grammarly already with multiple products and really, really big revenue. So what is your visual expression of strategy?
Ooh, my visual expression of strategy. I mean, the way, at least the way that it works in my mind is I'm just a very like visual thinker. I'm a very like designy PM. And so I like to visualize as clearly as we can an inspiring North Star, like what will actually kind of like be true about the world or the customer's experience, at that North Star, and then actually paint like I typically call it realistic fiction, right? Like here's like a couple key customer journeys that let's walk through the life of the customer using our product, at that destination. So once we kind of can, do that thing that we want to do, what is the product going to feel like? What is it going to do? And even if that's not like 100% accurate, I think it's just a much easier thing to internalize and much easier thing to remember. It's kind of like I'm sure you've heard the Airbnb kind of story of basically like the story of Cinderella, like walking into the office of Airbnb. I think it's that sort of tactic, but a little bit more grounded in here's the actual kind of like screen by screen, like kind of product expression. And I think that is helpful to not only paint the what, like kind of what is the destination, which I think is part of strategy, but I think a good strategy has to make it a lot more obvious to the team also the how. Like, okay, cool, that's where we want to be the world's greatest like note taker. Sounds awesome, great aspiration. How do we do that from here to there? And I don't think you need to answer every single step, but you need to essentially express the strategy such that people understand the sequence, the things we're going to do along the way in a way that they can attach to their work day to day.
I remember the first time I walked into the Airbnb office, a friend of mine was the first PM there.
Oh,
and I never forget because of that visual expression, right? They had these Disney characters on the walls that were a representation of what they were trying to accomplish from the supply side, the demand side. And I think that's such a good way to then have a conversation about how you break this down into more actionable items.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think, having everyone walk by that on the way to work, I think is a really nice trope. But yeah, that's how I think about it anyway.
So let's move to the next level, right? Like you have that visual expression, people buy into it, and then what? Especially in a multi-product strategy with so many people already, how do you make sure that we're working on the right priorities?
Yeah, so this multi-product thing is new for me. I guess we did a little bit at YouTube while I was there. We were just starting that. But yeah, it's interesting. So we're thinking about it very much as like a compound startup. And essentially, I have like 4 companies inside the building, and I have founders of each of these companies, like a group of founders. We have a thread of how these kind of companies like make each other better and kind of are part of a suite that like works together. But essentially, like each of the companies, are accountable to revenue and are accountable to driving revenue for their product. And then we have teams that are accountable for driving revenue across motions. So we drive the self-serve motion for every product. We drive the managed motion for every product. That's how we think about organizing it. And then in terms of are we prioritizing the right things? How do we organize like within those product areas? I think there's a number of different ways to do it, and it depends on kind of like the stage of product you are, right? You can organize by system. You can organize by like parts of the user journey. You can organize by here are our like 4 big rocks, this year, and so let's grab some groups to kind of organize that way and do it that way. But I think ultimately, if we have kind of a good understanding of the destination and we have mechanisms like as clear as revenue, then I think prioritization becomes a lot easier. And then, like anything else, we kind of go through it in detail. I do think part of doing this job well. I mean, now we have a term for it. I guess it's called founder mode. And I think there's like ways of doing that are empowering and exciting, and like we're in the work together because we really care about the details. We really want to get it right, and we really want to win. And I think there's ways that are doing that are disempowering and annoying and don't help anyone like learn and grow. And hopefully, we're doing it in the better of those 2 ways.
What are some of those ways? I'm also consider myself a micromanager, hopefully benevolent, like you said. And I'm curious to trade notes with you and see what has worked so far.
I mean, this one is hard to execute, and I tell it to teams all the time. I think teams that have worked with me for a while really buy it. I think when teams like kind of first start working with me, it's hard. But I very much try to create forums where I'm taking my CPO hat off, and I am I am a product, just another PM, another designer in this room. My opinion doesn't hold any more weight than any of yours, but we're going to work on the details together. And I'm going to often go from the 10,000 foot range to the, why is that pixel there instead of there? And I don't know how to build things in any other way. I love that part of the work. It's I'm lucky if I get an hour that way a week, and it's the best hour of the week. But you have to have, I think, the relationship and the trust and respect with the team to know that if you're doing that, it's not a bad thing. It's not because they're somehow doing something wrong or something bad. And ideally, you find a way to do it such that they're excited when that's happening, and they bring you into those sorts of situations and conversations. So that's one of the things. Just diving into the details, I just think is really critical, and you can't do that everywhere. But I think in the spots where it's really necessary for the goals that we have, that's one of the main things that I do.
Well, I want to talk about money. You mentioned that you're kind of running 4 startups within your purview, and I love that, because that also means that product is accountable for revenue and not just for building a product. So how are you thinking about that and creating the right mechanisms to ensure that there is that
not as directly, and I think the quota means much more and is much more consequential, obviously, for our sales team. But I want our EPD teams feeling like they are on the hook for that number, and they need to make sure that either the AEs, BDRs, et cetera, have what they need to achieve their number, or in the self-serve business that the way that we're acquiring users, activating users, exposing them to our functionality, that they're thinking about that from day one. It's sort of maybe another way of thinking about it is like every PM is a growth PM. Every PM should be thinking about GTM from day one. Having a great feature idea, but having no idea about how anyone's going to discover it or how you would position in the market or anything like that, doesn't have doesn't have a huge amount of value. So if everyone on the team is sort of thinking that way, and you actually quarter by quarter try to forecast revenue impact and make the teams feel on the hook for that forecast, and I think that helps drive some of that accountability.
And from a comp perspective, is there any type of variable component or ways for the EPD team, engineering, product, and design, to also realize that they have skin in the game and an additional incentive beyond just embracing that mindset?
It's a great question. It's not. I don't think it's possible. I would love to have everyone in EPD on a quota and variable comp. I think that would be very, very interesting. I've never been in an environment like that, but we don't do that. But of course, there's a lot of incentives in place through the equity, right? And how we plan on kind of doing liquidity events throughout, and what that can mean to people. That's how we essentially make sure that everyone has skin in the game.
Well, now I want to cover monetization, but from the user lens. And obviously, Grammarly started as a consumer product and now has also big amount of large enterprises. So what are the different, how does PLG in your case support your enterprise go to market? And is there any other type of motion that you are seeing that is helping you get there?
So we're trying to execute a PLS motion, right? So ideally, sort of way, start using them, get value out of them, start spreading to their teams. And then once kind of we reach a certain density, or we find a particular buyer or a particular lead kind of within that self-serve audience, our managed team comes in and tries to upgrade them into an enterprise account, a different level of service and a different level of functionality. We're also in some of our products, like Coda, for instance, actually has a self-serve enterprise tier. Not every customer needs be effective as well to do self-serve for those customers that are happy, paying those rates, and they don't need the support of the CSM team, the AE team, et cetera, et cetera. But that's effectively the motion we're trying to execute across our products.
So when you said PLS, how is that different than PLG?
I'm product-led sales. In my view, is that the product is driving the growth, through user to user sort of interactions. But then on top of that, we try to understand and learn from how the product is being used, who it's being used from, what departments it's being used in, whatever our customers are willing to kind of share with us through the use of their product. And then we do these sort of lead qualification, lead scoring, lead identification. And when we see that there's a larger opportunity, then our sales team comes in and helps to kind of upgrade that opportunity. So that's how I kind of think about the PLS.
Got it. And thank you for clarifying, because I think that's really powerful. Things that you mentioned, how PLG is different than PLS, and even how you have a PLS motion for enterprise. That's not always the common way of thinking about this.
Yeah, I think that we're in a very like fortunate spot, which is like Grammarly, as you mentioned early on, like has very widespread usage. We're in, I think it's like 98% of the Fortune 500 in terms of like where are their users that are using Grammarly. And sometimes what happens is, there's enough people that start using it that IT comes along and is like, what the heck is this? And then, usually they process of like, okay, where else can we kind of go in that enterprise? Are there particular departments? Are there particular, champions that would really benefit from, the sort of products that we deliver? And the product spreads, and we start to kind of understand that, find those buyers, and then hopefully sell a departmental sale and things like that.
I had Shishir on the podcast many years ago, and I learned a lot from him about bundling. He's kind of the master in bundle pricing. So as I hear you talk about expansion, I'm curious to know how you're thinking about that is in terms of expanding the usage of the existing product across more users, as well as maybe connecting that with other offerings that you have in your suite.
Yeah, we never talk about bundling internally here. I'm just kidding. It's like every other day. No, I think that's absolutely part of the plan. You'll see us offer. We don't think. Let's put it this way. We don't think Grammarly. I'm going to go a little off track here. Grammarly is unlikely to be the brand that supports all of these products and the expansion that we have. So there'll be a new brand, and then there'll be a bundle that you can purchase from that. Compelling price, but also functionality.
Yeah, I keep seeing new influence the way you price your own products.
Yeah, it's a great question. Like we talk about outcome, value-based pricing, et cetera. I think that those things will come as we learn in the market. But I think our first next step is let's stick with kind of like a per user sort of model, but let's offer a bundle that's just really compelling. That if you even want 1.2 of those products, it makes total sense to go for the bundle. And then I think we'll start to learn for each type of problem, for each type of customer, what is the product that really kind of like drives the anchor value of the bundle? That's like really the thing that the customer like gets a lot of value out of. And then I think from there we might start to think about kind of different ways of but I think initially we're going to stick with kind of your more typical, seat-based licensing, but try to offer a very compelling bundle.
I want to wrap up this session with one of your hot takes.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of this, unfortunately, is just like how the PM career track like started. Like, when I was coming up as a PM, there was really no such thing as like an IC track for a PM. There was only a manager track. You were an IC for a little while, and then once you got to a particular level, you became a manager. And so it's no surprise that like a lot of PMs, like what their goal is to like become a manager. But I think if you talk to most people who have been managers, their goal would never be to be a manager. I would say like the best managers are trying to figure out how they can get out of management and how someone on their team can replace them eventually. And so, yeah, I just think it's the wrong thing to optimize for, especially at companies that are like very much in the building stage, the PMF finding stage. I just think you want PMs optimizing for growth and learning and being builders as much as you can. In fact, I think that also extends to managers. I think managers should be really strong builders. They should be able to do the IC work. They should be excellent at their craft, in addition to being good, people, managers, operators, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's just like across the board, optimizing for management doesn't seem like the right goal.
I love that. I agree. Managers should be really good builders.
Yeah.
And many times I find myself saying, oh my God, why am I managing so many people? And I always try to find ways to either build something myself or have a really, really small team, as small as possible, to get enough leverage to be in the details.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a good instinct. And the exciting thing about all of these new AI tools, I think it's actually going to make it a lot easier for anyone that has even modestly the desire or instinct or wants to learn how to be a builder. It's going to be a lot easier to be a builder because there's so many things that you don't have to learn in the same way that you used to have to learn in order to build.
Imagine if the term product manager turns into agent manager. That would be so cool.
It would be, yeah. I think an engineering manager will also be interesting. What that turns into.
No, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Wow. Thank you, Noam. Thank you, Carlos. What an insightful conversation. So many great takeaways, so many great insights. And actually, there's more from Carlos later today. He'll be returning for a second product podcast interview, this time with Twilio's CPO, Inbal Shani. Do not miss it. But now it is time for our first networking break of the day. Oh wait, do I have a sound effect for that? Yes, I do. There it is. During our networking breaks, you can check out the networking room. That is a fast-paced chat roulette style space to connect with fellow product professionals. Also, you can hop into breakout rooms where you introduce yourself, your company, and dive into today's hottest product topics. And you can visit the virtual expo hall. This is where you can meet our sponsors, explore their tools, and access exclusive ProductCon discounts and giveaways. To facilitate the networking, we're providing a discussion prompt for each break to help spark meaningful conversations around AI in product. The topic for this networking break is, how do you see AI changing your role in 3 years? I know, that's a seriously big topic. I'm not sure 10 minutes will be enough, but be sure to return here in 10 minutes for our next round of 3 powerhouse speakers. I'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you all had a great discussion or few and made tons of connections, yeah? All right, well, let's get straight back into it with our next speaker, Elena Verna, Head of Growth at Lovable AI. Elena's going to discuss the collapse of pre-AI distribution moats and how to build new ones. Lovable is one of the hottest AI tools in product right now, so listen up, she knows her stuff.
Hi everyone, my name is Elena Verna, and today I'm here in front of you talking about the collapse PRODUCTCON. I'm very excited to be here. I currently lead growth at Lovable. You may have heard of this company. We help customers build their apps, B2B apps, B2C apps, e-commerce apps, websites, all by chatting with AI. I've also previously worked for companies like SurveyMonkey, Miro, Dropbox, Amplitude, and I've advised many other businesses. My superpower is really to identify patterns and frameworks in the market and help all of you understand some of the macro elements that are happening in our industry so we can all make a lot less mistakes and grow our companies a lot faster. So today, as I said, I'm going to be talking about the changes that AI has brought to growth and what every single one of you should be doing about it with your products. But first of all, growth. What is it? There's so many things that are flying around it. Is it a growth mindset? Is it a growth model? Is it just everybody's supposed to be responsible for growth? So let me break it down of the evolution of what growth has been and where are we today and what growth really means for every single team out there. So what does it mean? Well, first of all, I'd like to break it down into two elements. There's product and then there's distribution. Having a great product is not enough. You can build a most incredible product out there, but there's many incredible products out there that have never seen a light of day and have never been able to gain a really good traction in customers, which means that having a great product does not equal a great company. So we're going to go back to this. The product plus distribution is what actually creates a great company. And distribution is where growth is all about. So how is it that we acquire customers? How is it that we activate them? How do we monetize them? And how do we retain them? Those four questions are crucial in our ability to understand how is it that we're going to